Time for tipping the scales. The Ferris wheel, the family drama came to a head in the sentencing in the burn pile murder trial when convicted killer Melody Farris blamed her son, Scott.
Not only did I not do this, I know who did. I know Scott killed his father. He took my husband, the father of Chris, Emily, and Amanda.
Scott was Scott in the gallery, shaking his head back and forth while Mom read her statement to not only the judge, but the world. The judge sentenced her to life in prison with the possibility of parole. She's expected to serve 30 years minimum. She's not going to outlive that. She's already 60, I believe, 3. We're asking, do you believe Melody Farris? Did she tip the scales in her favor with this elaborate sentencing diatribe? She went on and was very detailed in some of the things that she believes points to Scott's guilt, her son. Let's talk about it with criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Joe Tamburino and body language expert and senior instructor at the Body Language Institute, Rodney Smith. Rodney, we're waiting to talk to you. I know what I think. I think she was telling the truth. After a while, you're listening to her, it's like, oh, this is coming from somewhere down deep, and or she's absolutely off her rocker. What did you see when evaluating? Let's start with Melody on during the sentencing hearing. Oh, Rodney, you got me?
Oh, yes. Oh. Sorry, I had a little bit of a delay. Sorry.
No problem.
So, obviously, whenever she starts off with her statement, she says that she wrote this. And based off the fact that she makes that statement indicating that she actually wrote the statement, the information that she put in there, she truly believes. A lot of the times when we look at from baseline to change, we see differences and changes in her tonality, her voice inflections. She's making direct positive accusations. She's making direct eye contact with her son, Scott. She's making eye contact with the judge. She comes across as very credible and believable in the information that she's presenting. And I think at this point, she's actually, for everyone else that has been listening, to include the judge, I would say she did a really good job of creating a level of reasonable doubt.
Joe, we watched this trial, and it was no slam dunk by any stretch of the imagination. A lot of people thought she would be found not guilty before the jury came back with their guilty verdict. What did you think of Melody at the sentencing, and how does it affect her case one way or another, or at all?
Well, it's too late, and it doesn't affect her case. I agree with Rodney. She came across pretty well during all of this, but she should have testified. You know, I think we talked about this before when we were watching the trial. She had an opportunity to testify. She could have gotten on that stand and even went into greater detail than she did at the time of the sentencing. So it's too late. It's not going to affect her case at all, and she should have testified.
Well, she did say, Joe, I wanted to testify. My attorneys advised me not to. Is that going to be part of an appeal here, ineffective assistance, or no, because the judge colloquied her?
Well, ineffective assistance is very difficult to win on in an appeal. It just is. Because when you get down to these calls as to whether or not, say, an attorney would call a witness, whether the defendant should testify, whether this witness should be cross-examined, these are basically calls that an attorney makes, you know, in conjunction with talking to their client during a trial. And almost always, those types of calls will not be considered ineffective assistance if they wind up being the wrong call. So I doubt, she might raise this on appeal, but I highly doubt she's going to prevail on it. The bottom line is that when you have information like this, you are the defendant and you talk to the attorneys. Of course, you give them, you know, what your opinions are, and they're going to give you advice. But with powerful statements like this, she should have just testified. And I'm surprised her attorney said not.
Yeah. Rodney, let's listen to more of Melody. I want to see what you see.
I saw you coming from that burn pile the morning of July the 5th. in your truck. You told me that you were checking on the fire to make sure that it wasn't going to get the woods on fire. You told me it was okay. I asked you a few weeks later why you were at that burn pile in your truck. And you told me that your dad had told you to clean up the extra wood that was by the barn.
Rodney?
Yeah, so once again, in this area here, which we refer to as the brow area, we see signs of grief. We see those inner eyebrows going in with an upward pull. And while she already has a downward produced area of her mouth here, we see that in conjunction, and we know from the universal micro expressions as well as macro expressions, those are areas of reliability when it comes to producing sadness. So she comes across as credible because she has that movement, which is a very difficult movement to make on command. If you were to try that yourself, to contract those muscles to be able to have that inward and upward pull in conjunction and in tandem with the frown more so than a pout, it comes across as very credible. She's very well composed in that chair. She's not doing a lot of unnecessary movement. She's actually seeming very relaxed, and she feels, and she's presenting herself in a manner that I know what I'm talking about. She believes what she's saying.
What about Scott? We've got can we play the sound real fast and then a quick assessment with yes or no if we believe him? Now,
did you murder your father?
I absolutely did not murder my father. Without a doubt, I loved him.
Did you have anything to do to help your mother dispose of and burn your father?
Absolutely not.
Tell me and let me.
No.
Rodney, do you buy him?
Well, without having a great amount of information, I do believe that he loved him. I do believe that he had some form of a grief muscle in showing. He did give a qualifier at the beginning. Instead of just saying no, he came out with an absolutely not. And a lot of times, not saying that that is indicative of lying, but he is actually trying to produce information that says, I unequivocally did not have any place in my father's murder.
Fascinating stuff, Rodney Smith. Thank you for your insight. Joe's going to stick around. At this point, Melody Farris is off to the state penitentiary. Scott is free. Did the jury get it right?